Hi everyone, this is Pastor Dan from Calvary Chapel, Cle Elum in Washington. We started talking about the helmet of salvation a couple of weeks ago from Ephesians 6:17. All of this in the context of going through the armor of God that He has given to us as we engage in the spiritual warfare we all face. We've talked about the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the gospel of peace, along with the shield of faith. And now we're at Ephesians 6:17, and take the helmet of salvation. The first part is the helmet, and we talked about that last week, and the second part is the salvation. Notice it's not just the helmet, it's the helmet of salvation. Salvation apparently has something to do with protecting our heads and our minds. There was actually a time when our minds didn't need protection, and I think we should spend some time talking about that right now. As we study about the creation of man in Genesis 1 and 2, we see that man has been created in the very image of God. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means he was created with a functioning spirit. And it also means that he was given incredible intelligence. And he was created totally righteous and holy. I get this from Ephesians 4:24. And that you put on the new man, which was created according to God, in true righteousness and holiness. And because of that, man carried on a beautiful and unhindered fellowship with God. God looked at the whole creation, including man, and he blessed it, and he said it was very good. But then things changed. The serpent came along and accused God of lying. And now the man was forced into making a decision between trusting God or trusting this serpent. Man chose to trust the serpent. In other words, to believe the serpent instead of God. And when man chose not to trust God, which involved obeying God, he sinned. When he sinned, he lost his holiness, he lost his righteousness, and he handicapped his intelligence, and he became a sinner. And when he did this, he broke off his fellowship with God, and his spirit died. Romans 3:10-11 says, as it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks after God. The result of that, Romans 3:23, for we have all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Now, I'd like to suggest to you that this describes every one of us pretty accurately before coming to Christ. And it describes what we struggle with every day. On the inside, we struggle with the temptation to sin. But no matter how we try to hide it, no matter how much we try to disguise it, it eventually shows itself. And it describes what we struggle with every day. On the inside, we struggle with the temptation to sin. Perhaps you've heard the story about the large commercial jet that was flying from Chicago to Los Angeles. About a half an hour into the flight, a voice came over the speaker in the passenger compartment. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a recording. You have the privilege of being on the first electronically controlled airplane. The plane took off electronically. The plane has risen to 30,000 feet electronically. It will ultimately land in Los Angeles electronically. The plane has no pilot, no co-pilot, and flight engineer because they are no longer needed. But don't worry, nothing could possibly go wrong, go wrong, go wrong, go wrong. Well, we don't ever want to see that kind of ugliness, do we? Now, the sinful nature of man is only the beginning of the problem. There's another bit of information that complicates the scene even more. The Bible tells us that God is holy, righteous, and perfect. 1 John 1:5 says that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. In Leviticus 10:3, Moses tells Aaron, this is what the Lord spoke, saying, by those who come near me, I must be regarded as holy, and before all the people, I must be glorified. God exists in the realm of absolute perfection, and he requires the same from others. The reason he requires perfection from others is in Habakkuk 1:13. You are of purer eyes than to behold evil, and cannot look on wickedness. God can't look on evil. The Hebrew word means that he can't regard it with pleasure or favor, according to Strong's dictionary. He can't tolerate wrong. Why? Because he's holy, and his holiness forbids this. It's part of his nature. Now, where does that leave us? I'll tell you where that leaves us. It leaves us completely and totally separated from God. Because of this problem, man became totally alienated from God. Man lost every ounce of fellowship that he had with God when he was holy and righteous in the Garden of Eden. You know what the Bible calls this separation? It calls it death, Romans 6:23. For the wages of sin is death. Now this doesn't mean annihilation or an end to consciousness. Death for us means a separation. When we die physically, we're merely separated from our bodies, but our spirits continue on. When we die spiritually, we still have a consciousness, but we're separated from God. And the final result of spiritual death is eternal separation from God in the lake of fire and burning sulfur in outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, according to Jesus in Matthew 8:12. And you want to know what makes it even worse? Well, there's nothing that you and I can do on our own that can change this. Nothing. The New Testament teaches that apart from God, we are dead in transgressions and sins. Now, what can a dead person do to bring himself back to life? The answer is nothing. But is it possible for someone who had died to begin living again? Again, on our own and by our own efforts? No. But with the help of God, yes, we can. We need help outside of ourselves. On our own, we can't get out of our dungeon, no matter how hard we try. Our own sin chains us to the dungeon wall. We need somebody to come and loose the chains that bind us and pull us out of the hole. Romans 3:21-26 tells us that the righteousness of God can be imparted to us when we place our faith in Jesus Christ. It tells us that he justifies or makes righteous the one who has faith in Jesus. Go back and read the verses for yourself. And after you read them, will you answer this question? Do you know what these verses represent to us? They are the best news that has ever come to mankind. There has never been better news on the printed page. These verses declare that though we are helpless sinners, we can become righteous again, that God will give us a righteousness apart from the law. And if we're righteous, then we're no longer dead. We've been brought back to life. Are you getting this? Our fellowship with God has been restored. And when our fellowship has been restored, we no longer have to worry about going to hell. Now, I'd say that's excellent news. Now, how does God give us his righteousness, though we are unrighteous, and then still maintain his own holiness? Well, we're going to talk about that next week. So I hope you'll come back for that. Once again, I hope this has encouraged you greatly. If it has, would you do me a favor? Click the like button, maybe share an encouraging word in the comments section. And please, would you share this with somebody that you think might benefit from it? If you're watching on the Calvary Chapel Cle Elum YouTube channel, would you subscribe to the channel? And if you're in the Cle Elum area and you don't have a home church, would you consider joining us on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 417 East Railroad Avenue in Cle Elum, Washington? Again, this is Pastor Dan from Calvary Chapel Cle Elum. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. May God bless you and keep you. And until we're able to get together next week, my prayer is that God will show us how to protect our minds by wearing the helmet of salvation. In Jesus' name.